right, KEXP around the world at KEXP.org. I'm thrilled to have one of my favorite bands, the Lost Bayou Ramblers, in the Roadhouse. All right, Los Bayou Ramblers in the Roadhouse. Great to have you back, Louis. Louis Michaud and his brother Andre, the core of the band for many, many years. It's about time you got back in here. Good to see you again.
Glad to be back at KEXP.
Yeah.
Very good to be back.
Yeah, the new album, Kalinda, is out, and those were 2 songs off it. What were those 2 songs, Louis?
The first one was the Sabine Turnaround. It's the last exit before you get to Texas, you turn around. And the second one was the Balfa Waltz, Into the Bathtub, which was the main theme song from Beasts of the Southern Wild. They pulled it off of the Will Balfa original, the Balfa Waltz, and they turned it into the Bathtub. So we did both of those.
Right, yeah. And, I just want to say that, you guys are really a great sort of progressive band that's, rooted in the Cajun tradition. I know you're all from southern Louisiana, but I just want to read off some of the great accolades. You mentioned one of them. You are on the soundtrack for that great film, The Beasts of the Southern Wild. Also, you are a Grammy-nominated band. This is your 8th album now. You were on the American Epic show, the Jack White produced fantastic documentary in which you were the talking head about, the whole history of Cajun music, which was kind of a mind blower. As I was watching it, I'm like, there's Louis on the TV talking. He's like the guy talking about Cajun history. Yeah. Yes. Also, you were just recently, you were ranked number 2 LP on the 21 Louisiana albums of the 21st century, according to the Times-Picayune. So congrats on all that.
Thanks a lot, Greg.
Yeah.
Thank you. Glad we can bring it back up here.
I mean, you've really come a long way in the years you've been together. I mean, the band has changed over the years a bit, and then the last 2 records have been produced by Corey Ritchie, who has also worked with Arcade Fire and the LCD Sound System. And so Mammoth Waltz, I believe, was the first record you worked with him, and now this is the second one.
Yeah, we met him on Vermillionaire, and he was the house engineer at Dockside. And then he produced the Mammoth Waltz. And then, of course, his cousin Eric Heigl has since joined the band and helped produce Kalinda as well. And so they're cousins, and it's great to have, their amazing production. Corey's from Egan, Eric's from New Orleans, and together they bring so much just production value, you could call it, but they understand the music and they understand where we go with the music.
Yeah, because they're from around there. I mean,
Exactly.
They know. But when I say progressive band, I mean, I'm talking about sort of the Mammoth Waltz album and this album. In turn, you can sort of take it, I guess, farther than the strictly traditional stuff that we typically hear from a Cajun or a Louisiana band.
Yeah, and we like to keep creating new sounds and new songs and things that please us, but at the same time, Andre and I started this in 1999, and it's always been about, playing this traditional music, and it still is. Every song on that album, on the new album and Mammoth Waltz, is all traditional. It's traditional music, even if we write a lot of it, everything is rooted, and that's how we like it. We like it in French, we like the accordion fiddle and the rhythms. It's all rhythms that have been around for a very long time. Sometimes we're digging up old rhythms that haven't been played in a very long time. So some people think, oh, that's new and different. And to us, it's just a beautiful old rhythm that hasn't had justice in decades.
Yeah, and that's really the way it is from where you're from. It's really more rooted in tradition than most other places, and it's all kind of about the family bands and the generations of people coming up with the sort of the same things, and you guys just, I guess, turn it up French, and also sort of you've also are really responsible for that sort of resurgence of this French-speaking music in the last 15, 20 years as well, with some other bands, of course.
Yeah, definitely, and that's, the music has really been a major vehicle of keeping French alive. For one, it's the education is in the music, the words, the actual Cajun and Creole vocabulary, if you want to say words that don't exist in standard French that only exist in Louisiana, and it also gives it interest, and people really get turned on to the language through the music, just like we did, and it takes an effort to pick it back up, but the music has always been the vehicle, it seems.
Yeah, tell me about this Kalinda character.
Well, Kalinda, of course, is more recently known as a girl who dances dirty. That's the Rod Bernard 1962 release called Allons danser Kalinda, and he is the most popular version of a girl who dances too close. and you have to have a chaperone, if you're going to be with Kalinda. But it comes from an old Congo square dance that has many versions all around the Caribbean, including New Orleans. And it's a very, very, it's a very complex term, because anytime you try to find out what is the Kalinda, you get a different answer. No matter who you ask, no matter if you look it up on the internet, you always get a different answer. And, there was a stick fight. There was a dance stick fight with a bottle on the head, and whoever won get to fill whiskey in the bottle. And that might turn into the Cajun tradition of dancing with a can of beer on your head. But, and then it evolved its way into a lullaby in Lafayette about 100 years ago. And we found this field recording of Monsieur Vavasseur Mouton, who said, "This is my grandma sang this to me to put me to sleep many years ago." And it's the Kalinda, but he has the rhythm, badoom, badoom, which is the Congo square rhythm in the lullaby, and goes on to talk about this Monsieur Mazareau, who was a royalist that no one liked in New Orleans because he was anti-Napoleon, and he outlawed dueling in New Orleans, and they make fun of him in the song. And so it's just this amazing bridge from Congo Square in the 1700s all the way through the Spanish Creole, French Creole, the Cajun, and all the way to a Cajun rock and roll song. So it's this multifaceted song, and we do our own version based off the lullaby.
Cool. Very much like Louisiana and New Orleans itself, it's really a complex thing, isn't it?
Yeah, really hard to put your finger on what it all means, and every time you ask, you get a different answer.
You still doing your radio show?
I had to give it up. I passed it on to a friend of mine, but he's doing it just like it, called the Le Réveil, and doing it all in French.
And that was in Lafayette?
Yep, and my Uncle Rick passed it on to me.
Yeah.
So we're, keeping it going.
Right on, yeah. Well, let's hear some more from this great new album. It's called Kalinda. This is the Lost Bayou Ramblers. They're in the Roadhouse. This is KEXP.
This is a song off the album called J'aurais Des Ailes, and it's another traditional tune that we made our own version of, because it's one of those ones where every time you listen to a version, it's different. It became the song you might know as Parlez-nous à boire. It's the root of that. But on the album, we have Spider Stacy of the Pogues playing penny whistle. He couldn't make it here to Seattle today, but he's with us in spirit for sure. And he'll be with us right when this show comes out. He'll be playing with us near Nashville. So it's fun to play with him. And here's something we came up with together. J'aurais des ailes.
Allons à la cantine pour boire et bien rire et bien se divertir en nous et nos amis.
All right, Lost Bayou Ramblers featuring the Michaud brothers. Great to have you in the Roadhouse. What was the name of that one? I can't even begin to pronounce it.
J'aurais des ailes. It means if I had wings like all the swallows.
Right on. And when this airs, it's going to be around the early September. You're going to be in North Carolina, and you're going to do a performance, which is a score to a silent film. Is that right?
Yes, we've done this quite a few times now. We play with the wordless music and the local symphony where we go, and this time we're going to be at Duke University playing the Beasts of the Southern Wild score to the screening with the whole symphony. They call us the Creole Band. We play acoustic, and we have sheet music in front of us. And it's an amazing experience because the film is so moving itself. If you haven't seen the film, it's completely worth checking it out. And, every time you see it, you get deeper into it. It's not one of those films where you can watch it and you get tired of it. You get deeper into it every time. And the music, having the live music right there is amazing. And so we've been doing it for 5 years now, and we thought it was going to end when we played the Sanger Theater in New Orleans a few years ago, and they keep bringing it back, and it's...
It's a very interesting film.
Yeah,
it's a very different film. Yeah. Tell me how you got involved in that American epic, because when I texted you that one night I was watching that, I think it was the 3rd episode, and I'm just enjoying myself, and then there you are on the screen being the authority on Cajun music. And first of all, that's just a fantastic documentary series, and it must be flattering to be chosen to speak about that really interesting history of your music.
Yeah, it was my birthday of 3 years ago, and I got a call from L.A. I said, L.A., I might should answer. You never know. And it was Bernard McMahon, and he said, hey, this is Bernard. We're doing this American epic thing, and my coworker has your Mammoth Waltz, and we want y'all to represent Cajun music on this film produced by Jack White. I'm like, sounds pretty cool.
Right, and he meant as a performance, because there's
and he wanted us to fly up in a few weeks and perform Allons à Lafayette, which was the first Cajun song recorded by Joe and Cleoma Falcon Bro. And excuse me. And the amazing thing is that it really gives credit to Cajun music as a large enough part of the early commercial recording era. Excuse me. That it we don't see it as that back home where Cajun music has a national presence. But it really did back then, and it still does today. And, we don't realize that, wow, it was a significant part of the early commercial recording industry. And so they chose us to represent, the Cajun side of it. And once we got into it, they asked me to help narrate the section on the Bro brothers, from Amadé Bro, who was a huge influence on us, and his grandsons playing together. And
it was so interesting. And so I guess what I'm trying to ask you is, it started as a performance, and it sort of grew into you being the talking head of that segment.
Yeah, because we started talking about the history and getting real into it.
And you know it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's it's a passion of ours. I mean, Andre learned a lot of his accordion from our dad Tommy, but also Ray Abshire, who learned from Nathan Abshire and Amadé Bro. And, and that's just been a huge influence on us, whether directly through that or through his recordings, which are just so eerie and mystical, and they have this real old world feel. And yes, it's right where we naturally should be.
Yeah, and they just had such amazing footage. The footage they were able to uncover was just really pretty mind blowing.
Yeah, they could have gone on and on. As they had to condense it to just 4 hours.
Yeah, and Andre makes accordions as well. I know you're not really mic'd up right now, Andre, but yeah, you're a builder as well.
Yeah, well, like Lou was talking about, Joe Falcon, his cousin Randy, taught me to build a little while ago, and he learned from the same thing. He learned from another guy that was one of the first guys in South Louisiana to start building.
Yeah. You guys know I'm a big fan of Louisiana bands and culture and food and everything. And I visited Louis one time at your sod house, and I said, your house is made out of sod, and I don't know if you were kidding or not, but I think the roof or something was made out of sod. And then it led to a conversation of how it is with a lot of people who come up generation to generation down there. They help each other out. And so you were telling me, I think it was you, that someone was getting married, and so one of the wedding gifts was for everyone to get together and help build a house. You know,
Well,
and I know it sounds a little crazy, but I think there's some truth in a lot of that.
Definitely. I mean, that's I learned everything I know from Andre on building, which, I didn't know much when I went to build the house. It's just something I wanted to do. And we call it bousillage, by the way. It's the mud and cured Spanish moss with cypress post. They call it bousillage because boo means mud. So Andre helped, and my Uncle David, who used to play in the band, and some other friends who knew less than me. And it was really, just, coming together to build it. I don't know how we did it, honestly, but definitely a community operation. And to harvest 1,000 pounds of moss alone is quite a feat. And that took the help of a lot of friends. It's definitely a community operation.
Are you still there in that house?
Oh yeah, and this wall is solid as ever.
I was gonna say you're still building.
Yeah,
You and Kirkland.
I got more babies.
Generations of it.
And,
Well, Louis, I tell that story a lot to friends who don't know really about, the sort of deep culture of Louisiana. And I explain how I was there to visit you on the first anniversary of my wedding with my wife, and my wife didn't know anything about sort of this sort of culture and the history of it all. And I really wanted to sort of show it to her on this trip to New Orleans. And we came out to where you live. And what was so interesting about it was in 1 hour of time with you, my wife saw kind of the full picture of what it is to be raised Cajun and to live generation to generation amongst all this, tradition and history, where we talked about, you were making Mammoth Waltz at the time. You talked about the house made out of whatever you called it, mud. And then your wife came home, who is like the local French teacher at the local high school, and your baby boy who was young comes home and immediately comes to you and picks up an accordion and starts going to the speaker and trying to play it. And that was just it in a nutshell right there. All you really need to know about sort of, how you're brought up and how it is.
Yeah, it's it's right there if you want to access it, really. And I think it's up to each person, to kind of follow their calling. One of mine was, I picked up the fiddle after playing guitar for years, and Andre and I both played electric guitar, and I happened to pick up the fiddle, and he happened to pick up the accordion, and I was traveling Canada, and he was at home in Freetown, Lafayette, and, it's about following your calling and continuing those pieces. We can all only do so much, but there's so much value in language and in music, and there's so much history in it, and there's, it really just continues the knowledge that we all need in a way to continue to live in harmony with our environment and our society. And we're very lucky to have so much of it still so present, and, the music happens to be a big corridor for it.
It's a funny thing that the music and the culture, it's like it's so prevalent that whether you set out to or not, because Louis and I didn't set out to do it. We just kind of, our dad and his brothers played, and we just were kind of in it. And then we just happened to pick up the accordion and the fiddle, and it just kind of happened that way. But then there's also things like the language that you kind of have to set out. You have to kind of set out to do and make your mind up to kind of keep that around as well. You know? In ways, it's real prevalent, and in ways, some parts of it are kind of going by the wayside.
Right, but I think whatever it is, it's in you as well, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, the new album's called Kalinda. This is the Michaud brothers, Andre and Louis. The album's great. Do you want to introduce the band real quickly? Because I know you have a teenager in the band now, which I'm kind of so shocked.
Yeah, well, we're all Lafayette except for, I'll start with Eric Heigl. He's co-produced the album. He plays most instruments. We have Kirkland Middleton on drums. He's a Lafayette.
And he's 13.
Native. 12. He's 12. Flipped around to 21. Elvis is his non-biological grandfather. It was actually immaculate.
Well, yeah.
That's another story. We'll do a whole other show on that.
Yeah.
We have Brian Weber on bass and other instruments, and Johnny Campos on the electric guitar.
All right. How about one more song?
This is a song called Rice Pump, and it's kind of one of the themes of the album, the rice pump, something Ray Abshire told us about, and it's actually a water pump, but it fills the rice fields. and it's the rhythm. It's the old name for the rhythm when you just beat the heck out of the bass drum. So, and it's also like a beating heart. So here's the rice pump.
All right, it's Rice Pump from the new album Kalinda from the Los Bayou Ramblers. Great to have you here, Louis, and Andre, and band. If you're in North Carolina, check these guys September 8th and 9th in Durham, I believe, with the North Carolina Symphony.
That's right. Thanks so much for having us back.
We could talk forever, right?
That's right. We'll do it again.
Sounds good. This is KEXP.
Discover new music at listener-powered KEXP.org.